up, get out right out of your bed, that's your quicksand. Getting rid anxiety and head, you can fix it. Rid of stigmas, all of them you said, we ain't listening. Just remember, try to do your best, you can win this. Maurice Benard, State of Mind.
Hello, I'm Spanish. Or Hispanic, or Latino, or from Nicaragua, or from San Salvador. Okay, anyway, but most people think I'm Italian because I've been playing Italian for 31 years. Mm-hmm. That's the reality. My name is Maurice Benard, but my real name is Mauricio Jose Morales. Thank you. Who do I got today? This guy, this actor, cool dude. When you see him, you're going to want to date him, probably. Very talented actor. He was on GH for, like almost 3 years or 3 years. And he played, that's one thing I don't remember. Detective Cruz Rodriguez. Yes, I got it. I don't know if you guys remember him, but he's done a lot of other stuff. And I'm not going to go down the whole list because there's so much. There's some actors that come in here that I don't go down the whole list because it's ridiculous. FBI, The Punisher, Power, Blue Bloods, American Horror Story. How's that for you? How's that? He wrote this book. Listen, people. Flipping my script. Okay? Do you see this? Look at it. It's great. And I know it's great because I went to check it out. And I'm not sure he did the voice for it. Like, what do they call those things? I did it for my book. But he may have. He'll tell you all about it. But I'm not joking. I watched a little clip that he did of the book. He not only looked great, but he has a great voice. And I don't mean that just kind of like, just flip it. He has a great voice. I thought to myself, I want to work with this guy. I really did. I said, shit, he should play my nephew or something, or brother, younger brother, whatever. But his name is, you ready? Adrian Alvarado.
What's up, Mo?
What's up, man?
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Your book is let's talk about your book, bro.
All right.
Tell me about it.
Flipping my script. It's a book about family, assimilation, the 80s, and Hollywood dreams.
Miami Vice?
Almost-ish. I remember Miami Vice. But it's a book I started writing to heal a broken heart and a fractured identity. Lost my mother when I was 14 years old.
Yeah. How was that, man?
It was terrible. It was
14. Terrible. That's pivotal.
Yeah, and and losing her, I didn't just lose her, right? I lost Puerto Rico, right?
Wow.
I lost the language and the stories that she would provide, right?
Yeah.
So flipping my script was me piecing together what I had lost.
No, but your dad was there, right? When you.
No, I didn't grow up with my dad.
Okay, wait a minute.
So yeah, my dad was never around.
So it was just your mom, dude?
Single mom, yeah.
And then she died, and you're just kind of, who took care of you?
I had in the book I get into this, right? I ended up staying with my aunt. My dad, it's not that he wasn't around. He was around, but he wasn't. I met my dad when I was like 9, 10 years old, like physically met him.
How was that?
I mean, it was cool because I finally because I kept hearing about this guy that my grandmother would tell me about.
Yeah.
Because I'm the youngest boy, so by the time I came around, there was 3 of us. they were already, my parents were on the outs. So right when I was born, like that happened to be like Splitsville, right?
Oh, okay.
So that's why I didn't grow up with him.
But in a way, because you were that young, divorce isn't that bad, right?
Well, I didn't experience the divorce, right? Because I didn't grow up with them.
Damn.
Right? And I only saw my parents together one time, like standing next to each other.
Really?
And I break that down in the book. My dad was a street guy. He was a hustler, and he loved action. So he lived that life.
Wow. And now, see, it's like when I talk to people, actors, about divorce and stuff, I'm fascinated by it because I've been with the same woman for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never had to experience that, and I'm sure it's very difficult. So when you were a little boy, how was it not having a dad?
Well, I grew up with a stepdad for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Right? So I thought I did have a father figure, but I knew he wasn't my dad, which was strange because my grandmother would tell me, "This is my son. This is your father." Because I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. I spent many summers in Puerto Rico, and she's the one who kept feeding me. All right, this is your dad. But it was tough because we were struggling. It was like we were like inner city, living on food stamps.
Damn.
And it was like, so it was always like.
But also the other kids that had parents,
Mm-hmm.
two parents, or at least one,
Mm-hmm.
right? They would be like, "Oh, my dad," and you didn't. How did that make you feel? Like it was like nothing, or was it like, shit? I wish I had.
No, I felt the void, And once I was always, once I found him and I knew where he was, I started seeking him, and I would always.
How?
He would always be at these bars, right? My dad was a gambler. Like, he wasn't a drinker, right? Not that he didn't drink, but he was there to play. He was running the crap games in the back.
Damn.
Like, seriously, he was playing poker in the back room. Like, that's what he was doing. And when when I met him, he's like, "Hey, come find me. I'll be at the old San Juan bar."
Really?
And I would go at 10, 11 years old, whenever I needed some cash, right? I'm hungry. I need to get some pizza. I would go look for my dad, open the door, the bartender would look at me, and he could tell I'm his son. That's when I started realizing he was my dad. And I would go.
Oh, he looks like you?
Yeah, I look just like him. I'm a spitting image of him now. And I would just go to the back room, and he'd be in there and playing poker. Hey, this is my son, and then he would give me $10, and then I'd get the hell out of there and eat some pizza and play some video games. But that was my first relationship with him. It was bittersweet because, all right, I found my dad, but I was still questioning. It's like, well, why do I have to look for you?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, isn't there something in your dad that says, I feel guilty or I need to reach out myself and no?
Not at the time.
Damn.
Not at the time. He has now, he's going to be 79. My dad's still around. And he has a lot of regrets, And
those that old school, they don't feel like the need to work on themselves.
No, not at all. And it was like, and they didn't talk about their family back in the day, Like all of my friends probably downtown, all our dads knew each other.
They didn't talk about their. It's like, I'm proud to have a family,
Yeah, it wasn't like that. He didn't think that way. He tells me, a lot of the stories I got here was from my dad. I developed a relationship with him as an adult, And once I started having kids, when I had my son, I pretty much gave him, I said, hey, I can forget about all that stuff in the past. I mean, I forgive.
Yeah.
But how are we going to move forward,
Now, so, damn, that's tough for a kid to deal with what you've dealt with. So then your mom dies. You don't really have your dad. Do you have your stepdad?
No, So when my stepdad had, him and my mom had a daughter. So I have my sister, Shailene. And when my mom passed, he he took her because they had separated. So I did experience that. They were never married, but I experienced that separation of that relationship deteriorating.
How old were you?
It's about 11. 10, 11. Yeah. It ended badly. They were just, it's one of those stories, it's like it was just domestic violence, So I grew up with my mom, getting.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So that was tough.
How was that?
It's terrible.
Because I've never really talked about, I've done like over 400 interviews.
Yeah.
But I've never talked about domestic violence.
Right. I experienced that. My mom, unfortunately, experienced that, and it was tough because I couldn't protect her.
Because you were too
I
little.
was too small. I was scared of him. So when it happened, when shit hit the fan, violently, it was pretty dark. I go into.
What would you do? If you're too small, is there other ways? This is good for the audience. Is there other ways to combat that?
Well, I pleaded, and it made him stop.
Oh, man.
Right?
Yeah.
And they were going through their spiral. At the time, you don't really understand what these adults are going through, right? And
Right.
what their trauma is.
Yeah.
But he had some deep trauma, and he took it out on my mom. Look, he was a great stepdad. He was a great dude. But there was this flip side.
Demon.
There was this demon that he had. I call it Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
He would just, become a danger.
So she died, and you have to tell me something because I've had so many people die. It's just ridiculous at this point. I tell people not to get too close to me because you're going to end up dying. I don't like funerals.
Yeah.
Especially for kids, because it's almost like added suffering. I understand the respect of it.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you went to the funeral?
At that point, I had already come to terms. I get into in the book where there was a moment where I knew I became a man and I was on my own. Because it was like, when my mom got ill, it was like I had just graduated the 8th grade. And that was June. And then by October, she was gone. So I had just started high school, right? So by the time she passed, it was almost a release,
Wow.
where
What did she have?
She had cancer, so she was and she suffered. It was bad for her.
Right.
So when you see that deterioration, it was almost like at that point, you're gonna lose her, right? So you have to sort of come to terms. It was like a 2-month process where I knew this was gonna happen, right? And obviously I was going out of my mind.
Yeah.
I had a great support system, thankfully, at the time, because I was already working at 12 years old, working in this pizzeria, right? Washing dishes, folding boxes.
Yeah.
So this Italian family pretty much adopted me,
Wow.
And they mentored me and, helped my mom in the process. So if it wasn't for them, honestly, I don't know if I would have came out of it,
So at that point, you became a man at such a young age. I guess there's good and bad in that, right? Because it makes you who you are.
Yeah. I had
But who the hell wants that?
it wasn't, I had no choice, right?
I know, I get it.
I had no choice. And that's why I wrote this book. It was part of the healing process where I started writing back then, but it just, I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
No.
No, man, I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
At that young a age?
Yeah.
People go through that stuff later on maybe, but not that young.
Yeah.
But it's made you, it's like mental health, I hate it, but it's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, in that way, it's made me stronger. And same with you. it's a tough thing to go through what you went through. I don't, if, you know, for me with my mom and dad, like I said, like my mom and dad, they were together for 70 years or whatever, how many years. I've never had to experience that side of what you've had to experience, and it's tough. And same with divorce, like I said, and everything's been, except for mental health, my life.
Except for my brain, everything's
You know what I mean? Yeah,
Life is great.
Exactly. I mean, geez, man.
You know, but that's what the book's about, Mo. It's about, you know, I'm grateful that, you know, I was blessed to understand, right, what was happening to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just God gave me the strength to deal with this stuff.
And faith is important to you. Religion, same with me.
Yeah, and as I was writing this book, I realized I wasn't writing this book for me because I was also addressing the generational trauma that shaped my family.
Right.
Right? So there's also that. It was really important to me once, you know, coming from what they call a broken home, right? Not having my father and my parents together. So that was vital for me. Yeah, I'm married 19 years, you know. That was really important for me to flip the script in my generation, in my family's generation of not being together and sticking around. So
Right.
that was a big part of my goal, to make sure that I build a new foundation for my family.
So it makes you also, you don't want to break up a marriage
Yeah, no.
because of what you've been through.
Yeah, no, I know. It's like she's gonna kick me out. That's the only way it's gonna happen. She's gonna be like, "I'm done with you. Get out."
How does she feel?
She's awesome.
Tell me about her.
My wife Diana, she is. I wouldn't be here, and you know, if it wasn't for her. She is my rock and my support. Always been supportive, you know, especially when you're in this career, you know.
What does she do?
She was a singer by trade.
Oh.
She went to LaGuardia High School in New York City, and she was part of a singing group back in the late '90s. But no, she's a corporate girl. She runs facilities, these schools, and she's doing great work. She runs like 12 schools.
Really?
Yeah, in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New York, and she takes care of whatever the schools need.
Wow.
She's just an amazing, amazing woman. And mother and wife.
And you have 2 kids?
Yeah, I got my son Sebastian and my daughter Natalia.
And what's going on with them?
My son's a junior, my daughter's a sophomore, and my daughter's she's the creative. She got the creative gene. She's a visual artist.
Oh, wow.
And she gets to go to the special school half the time, so they pick her up from high school and they take her to this visual art school.
Are you serious?
She's amazing. I mean, she's really talented.
Like what is she? What do you mean?
She can like
Draw?
anything,
Paint?
anything, clay, 3D printing. I mean, they got these kids doing amazing things.
Let me tell you something, man. This is funny we're talking about this. I went to Pinkberry yesterday with my buddy, who's a hypnosis dude. And the girl behind the counter was very nice. And my buddy says, "What do you do?" She goes, "Oh, I paint." And then we saw her stuff on, it's like Van Gogh, bro. I mean, there are so many talented painters that you don't even know, that won't even get a shot, right?
It's a shame, you know. It's
like acting, I guess. The same
it's
thing.
almost very cliquey, right?
Yeah.
But no, yeah. I mean, I knew she was talented like at 2-3 years old, right? It was like she was, you know. I got her a chalkboard, you know, like you get your kids, you know, and you start teaching them, you know, lines and circles, and she just drew this sun. Just a simple little sun, you know, with a little face on it and and just, it had so much character. Like, I'm like, that's different.
Wow.
You know? And, you know, at the time I was like, oh, that's different. That's really nice. It couldn't have been any simpler and unique. And she's just been a doodler ever since. And she can she's amazing.
Damn.
She's amazing.
All right, let's. I think we can go on to some of your work. First of all, I want to get into what is this award-winning producer Sphere Media Production? Is
Yeah.
that what's going on? What is that?
Well, I produced, I got my own little production studio. I produced a podcast called A Black Executive's Perspective, and we just won an award for
What?
Best New Podcast. Yeah, it's we created with a friend of mine, Tony Franklin. He comes from corporate America
Okay.
and has always been a senior vice president, you know, in the C-suite, and he happens to be black, right? And he's always usually only been the only, in his experience, based, you know, coming up, he's always been the only black guy in the C-suite.
Right.
And during the whole Floyd stuff that was happening during the pandemic, he's in a biracial marriage, and things were happening. Like people were walking around in eggshells in the office. Like nobody was talking about it. You know, can we talk about it? You know, because he was working for corporate America, and you don't talk about race in corporate America.
Of course.
Right? But they felt something, and they approached him, and they asked him to create. He created a safe space to talk about race in the workplace. No judgment zone. You know, if you don't know, you don't know. Well, we're here to talk about it.
Right.
In corporate America, and we did it.
Wow.
And we're 2 years in, and we won an award for.
What do you? So is it like visual or is it?
Oh, it's visual. Yeah, it's visual and
So
audio.
it's like this?
It's like this. It's visual and audio. We did it in the studio.
And where can you watch it?
Anywhere,
YouTube?
Anywhere you catch your podcast. YouTube, you know, and you can listen to it on Spotify, iTunes,
Oh,
and watch it on
man.
YouTube.
I'm gonna check it. I don't
No, it's great. And, you know, we won it on this episode called Wilmington's Lie. Wilmington, Virginia was a town back in the late, it's still there, but back after the slavery, right? This town was like the American experiment, right? Where you had blacks in running newspapers and government and whites that were like integrating, and this town was flourishing. And it got taken down.
Really?
Yeah, they stopped it. You know, the mobs. I don't. You know. But that's what it's deep, and basically that was the American dream. It was really happening, and it was crushed, and that's part of our history, and it's.
And that's what you talk about in the thing?
This particular episode was the one that won us the award.
Are you the host?
No, I was the producer behind. I would chime in here and there, but I'm not the host.
Oh,
I was more behind the glass and do guest appearances and stuff like that. We did an episode about Puerto Rico, and a lot of people don't know that, you know, we're still a colony, and that, you know, a lot of people don't know that we're American citizens, like basic stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And just giving the history. So I'll go in there and add the Latino perspective.
I like that. But I'm gonna check. I'm really gonna check that out, man. Tell me about Power, because I used to watch Power.
Power's great.
Power's cool.
Yeah, it
Did
was
you meet
cool.
50 Cent?
Yeah, we got to be 50 Cent, and I got to work with Lauren. She played I forget her character's name.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. She was the main girl on there. But it was great, man. I played a lot of cops. GH kind of like.
Yeah.
So I was a lieutenant, and it's awesome. I mean, I just love to work. You know,
I know you
whenever
do.
I'm on the set, man. You know,
Blue Bloods. I know. I forget his name. This is where my memory's gone. When it comes to like, I know something and then I don't know it.
Actor, or are you talking about Donnie?
Actor.
Donnie.
I know
Wahlberg.
Donnie.
Yeah. Donnie was great.
Donnie came to the set with his family.
Donnie was great. So my stuff was with him.
Oh, it
for a couple
was?
days. Yeah. So he, ripping me a new one. He was interrogating me.
Oh. Let's see. FBI, what is that?
FBI, I got to do, I was a DEA agent.
You're just all over this agent thing because you have that face that looks like it's kind of nice, but you'll want to kick somebody's ass.
Yeah. It's got a, it's the Latino dangerous element that we got in there. Don't get too close. That was cool, man. It's funny because, TV, as you know, it's like Hollywood could be ahead of the game, with stuff that's coming out. And that episode happened to be about 3D printing, ghost guns.
Oh,
And that was like 3 years ago. And that's what the episode was about. Now, I never had heard about ghost guns until I did that episode. And after that, I couldn't stop hearing about and look how prominent it is now. And this was like 3 years ago.
What's going on with these drones, man?
In Jersey? I don't know.
Did
man.
you see them?
No. I'm in Connecticut, so I couldn't see them from Jersey. But
They're at my place. I live in Temecula, and they're all over there.
all over.
But I haven't been out there.
Oh, no, I haven't. My wife thought she saw one actually behind our yard the other day. Like she thought she saw something. I'm like,
And did you know they're as big as an SUV?
man,
And they don't. We need to know what it is. No.
yeah. And they don't know. How could
Who
we not?
then they do know.
Come on, how could we not know?
They do know. And that's what's scary the most, because they do know, and if they're not telling us, that means it's not good. Because if it was good, they'd be like, oh, it's a kid with,
Well, Amazon's getting ready to, release the delivery drones. Oh, like that's
yeah.
I think it's them. I mean, I don't know.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, and
It could be
they showed them. They're like not maybe
as big as SUVs.
No, they look like a bike, like they almost look like like that Star Wars sort of thing.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Kind of like that.
I know what you're
with,
talking
with
about.
with the drone wings.
Anything else you want to talk about, brother?
Well,
I want you to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I usually don't do this, but I mean, we can go down the line here. But what do you? Anything you want to talk about?
No, I just really want to advocate people who. I want this book. I wrote this book for Puerto Ricans and anyone in diaspora, and for anyone who's looking to heal generational trauma. I mean, it's something that I don't think people talk about a lot, right? We talk about a lot of our own,
I do.
our own personal
Yeah,
trauma,
but people don't.
but most people don't realize, like, I have a young sister, she's a art therapist. She just got her master's in art therapy. And she wrote a thesis on intergenerational trauma. And what I learned from that was,
What does intergenerational mean?
it means that we, as you know, we carry our trauma in our bodies.
Yes,
right?
yes.
But it can also be passed down through colonization,
Really?
right? Migration,
Wow.
and then obviously struggle.
We should get into some therapy before we get out of here. I think it's important. Tell me about.
My therapy, well, right now I'm seeing my therapist, and she constantly tells me to give myself grace.
Yeah.
But my therapy it started with my acting, shortly after, losing my mom, I started acting in the 3rd grade, right? Naturally, right? I got picked for these high school plays as a kid. But then that kind of sort of went away. But then after my mom passed, I found it again in high school, right? And it was great therapy because I wasn't focusing on my stories anymore. I was focusing on the characters and the plays that we were doing.
Yeah.
And then as an adult, you just want to stay busy and working. And you sort of, as a kid, I didn't know how to handle grief.
Yeah.
We don't have the tools, right?
No.
So what do, right? We push it down, right?
Yeah, of course.
And then as I start getting older, you stay busy, right? Because you're trying to find success and to fill that void. And acting was great, helping me with that to a point where I realized where acting just sort of became a mirror, right? Because we pour our emotions into these characters, and sometimes we don't really address those emotions, whether it be grief or love,
Or sex.
Yeah, exactly. We talk about it. We use our emotions, but hey, what about my grief? What about my pain?
Yeah.
We forget about it a little bit, and that's where writing sort of got me out of it. Where acting, gives us the ability to work on our emotions, but the writing gave me the ability to, gave me the courage to figure out who I was and work those out.
Yeah.
So flipping my script, it was just vital for me. It was like a shift that needed to happen for my mental health.
Yeah. It's like, it didn't really do that for me because I had a writer. Mm-hmm. You wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a writer Now, it was more therapeutic because I got to tell my story, but it didn't really change anything in me, or like I can see if I wrote it, it would have. Now, without her, it would not have been as successful if I wrote that motherfucker. Because she fucking made me fucking better.
Yeah.
Okay? Smarter.
Yeah.
Success. The book was a success, everything. Because of her. I do, and my life is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But acting, you said it great, because I've played a lot of characters who are bipolar. This is ridiculous now. It's like, and I don't think I've addressed, especially the last 6 months, I wasn't seeing a therapist. And I believe, and I think you agree, that if you're playing this stuff, especially the soap opera, you know what I mean, and you don't address those feelings, it's going to bite you.
Yep.
Now I have a therapist. I was just there before I came here. And I just talk about everything, right? That's what's important. That's what's important, what we're doing here, what you do on your show, what I'm doing here. It's very important for people to at least listen to other people where they feel like they're not the only ones.
Whether, absolutely, whether it be through therapy, through writing, you know, acting, movement. For me, it was all of those things. And a big part of it, too, was a cultural sort of healing that I needed, right? Because I sort of lost my roots, right? So that connection, so not growing up with my father, right? And then losing my mother sort of disconnected me even more, where I felt like for a while I didn't belong in, Puerto Rico, Jersey City, or even my own skin.
Why?
Because it was this loss of identity for me, it's something that I'd always struggled, because as a kid, we were going back and forth a lot in Puerto Rico. So I went to school in Puerto Rico, where we lived there.
I love Puerto Rico.
We lived there for a couple years, and then I would spend all my summers there. So I had this duality of going back and forth from New Jersey to Puerto Rico, and then having the neighborhood people calling me, oh, he's Puerto Rican. He's a typical Puerto Rican. And I started getting called that. And that was my first, wait a minute, wait. I've searched for identity. I said, wait, what are you calling me? And then at the same time, not having my dad around, I didn't know what it meant, because who teaches you who you are, right? Your father figure, right?
Yeah.
So eventually he did come back in my life, and that was vital. And he became the bridge to finding the pieces of myself that I didn't know, right?
And you guys now are great?
Oh, we're great. Yeah,
he's great? He's changed?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the old age does that.
Yeah.
Unless you become worse.
No, for the last 20 years, no, we've been tight. We've been tight. Like, I didn't, because for me, he was very important.
Yeah.
I didn't let him go, because he's all I have when I really think about it. Right? He's all I got, losing my mom. I had two brothers. I lost both my brothers.
You lost both your brothers?
I lost both my brothers, brother.
Why?
My older brother, I talk about him a lot in the book. He was 7.5 years older than me. He suffered from addiction.
Oh, addiction.
So eventually it took him out.
And the other one?
He was, unfortunately, he was just born ill. My brother had a lot of mental disabilities. Like, he was born in a wheelchair. Like, he had, muscular dystrophy, or anything, what they would call back in the day mental retardation. I don't even know what the right word is.
Mentally challenged.
Mentally challenged. I mean, he had the degree, where he couldn't communicate.
Really?
Like, no he was just like a baby in the chair. So
wait, Adrian. How was that? I want to get, before we leave, man. Please get me into that.
Yeah,
I'll tell you why. Damn it! Sorry. Just because I have a thing with mentally challenged people. I've always had it. And it's just a connection. I don't know. I used to be afraid of them. And then I wasn't afraid. And then, so go ahead. How was it having
Yeah, my brother Richard, he wasn't, I talk about it because it was a struggle for my mom. She had to put him in a hospital after 2 years old. Wow. Because she couldn't, you need 24-hour care, and you can't work if you're taking care of this was back in the 70s. So it was really challenging for her. And I remember visiting him in Woodbridge, New Jersey. There was this hospital over there, and he'd be in the wheelchair. We'd be having picnic, and if I got too close, he would pinch me. I remember having that. I remember having that fear, but it was just because it was, he was really in that like the biggest spectrum you could possibly have. No communication, no visuals, like you.
But the love is grand.
But he knew, and we would talk to him, and he would laugh, and you could tickle him. And the only word he would say was my mom's name. He would Nena. Maybe I call my mom Nena, which means little girl in Spanish. And he would go Nena, 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 Nena. So yeah, I mean, I remember how much she loved him.
Yeah.
And then after she passed, I took care of him. I became, once I was able to legally say, hey, I'm going to be in charge. When I'm 18, I said, I'm going to be in charge. So I would always make sure that, he was always taken care of.
Now, when you'd go to restaurants and stuff, was it difficult?
It was.
Or you couldn't go to?
No, you couldn't. We went one time, because I had my dad's sister, when I came out to LA, when I was out here doing my thing out here for 12 years, he was out in Jersey. So I needed somebody to sort of, in home base checking in whenever he needed something. And that was my aunt. And we went one time about 7 years ago. We took him to a restaurant, and it was an experience. The way people look at you, the way they were looking at my brother.
Does he yell and stuff?
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
It was a chat. It was but my aunt. But the thing, watching my aunt do it, it was like she didn't care.
That's amazing.
She's like, because he loved Puerto Rican food. She's like, I'm gonna take him to this Puerto Rican restaurant where he loves the
That's
food.
amazing.
And we're just gonna go. And then the hospital set it up at the van, and we just took him, and we're like, we're gonna take him out. We don't care.
Wow.
But it's
Then he passed away just recently.
He passed away about 4 years ago. They're not. They didn't. His lifespan wasn't supposed to be that long. And what happened? Just his body just sort of just atrophied. Where it was just closing in on him. You know what I mean? Like he was just like my arms were as big as his legs were like the size of my arms. You know what I mean? Those were his. So he's like always confined to this wheelchair, and it just sort of gave up on him.
Damn.
And I brought him to Puerto Rico because he had never been, and I spread his ashes in the most beautiful beaches in Puerto Rico, so he can always
that's amazing.
have the best view.
All right. On that note, I think I just want to say, have you ever been to El Conquistador?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that hotel.
El Conquistador. I love the Conch too. I stayed at La Concha.
I've heard of it.
I love Puerto Rico. I'm always there. I was just there twice. I was just there visiting my dad 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Sonny and Brenda were at El Conquistador in the beginning of my career, and we went with Ricky Martin.
Oh yeah.
It was cool. All right, let me just end this by saying, flipping my script, please go get it. I'm sure you're going to get it after you watched Adrian make me cry. I don't know how many times I've cried like that. That hit me hard. Great guy. Had a lot to say that I know is going to help a lot of people. Some boy out there who's 11 years old who loses his mother and doesn't have a father because his father's gambling or wherever his father is going to watch this and say, I can be like him. It's not impossible. It's possible. When you say you can't, you can. All right, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you,
Appreciate
bro.
you. Love you.